Hello, Danny Crane. Welcome back to TIS-100. In today's walkthrough, we're going to look at the Sequence Peak Detector. On this one, we get a series of numbers, and we have to send the lowest number of that sequence out to output I, and the highest value to output A. All of these numbers will be followed by a 0. That's how we know when the sequence is done, and we're ready to send the value out. We're going to break it up into two blocks, two major blocks anyway. We're going to have this block here test for our minimum output, and we're going to have this block here test for a maximum output. So first thing we have to do is send our values to each one of those. So we're going to use this first block here to do that. We're going to move the up value to the accumulator, and then we're going to move that accumulated value both down, and we're going to move that value to the right. So that splits us off. Now we can start on the first one here. So we'll go ahead and write the code to test for the minimum value. So the first thing we're going to do here is first we got to get that value. So we're going to start at the start, and we're going to move that up value to the accumulator, and then we're going to save it. So this is going to take that first number and put it in our backup. Now we need to bring in the second value and see if it was higher or lower. So first thing we're going to do is start with a new label, call it label A, and we're going to move the up value into the accumulator. Now we need to check if it's 0, because once we get a 0, we need to output that lowest number on this one. So we're going to do jump equals 0 to Y for yes. If it's not a 0, we need to figure out which one is higher or lower. So we're going to move the accumulated value. This is going to be the this is going to be the second value that we had gotten in, and we're going to move that to the left. Now we're going to swap, so that's going to bring our previous value back up, and then we're going to subtract the left value again. So we need to set that up. So we're going to move the right, this first one here, to the accumulator, and then we're going to move the accumulated value to the right. We're actually going to do it a second time, and I'll show you why here in a second. So, but we are going to do it twice, and that's all we have to do over here. Now, when we subtract left, we're either going to get a positive number or a negative number. So, first number we get is a 77. The second number we're going to get is a 20. When that gets subtracted into the 77, we're going to have a positive number, which means that the number we subtracted from was the lower number. If it was a negative number, that means that the saved value was the lower number instead. So what we're going to test is we're going to test if it's greater than 0. Because remember, if it's greater than 0, that means that our value coming from the left block over here was lower. And we're going to have it drop down to B. Now, if it's a positive number, we need to undo what we just did. We need to undo the subtraction. So we're going to add the left back in. That's why we sent it twice. And then we're going to save that value back into the backup. And then we're going to jump up to A to start the test again. Now, for B, when the value was lower coming in from this block over here, we're going to move the left value that we're getting, because we haven't used the second one yet, into the accumulator. And then we're going to jump back to A and continue the test. Now we still have to do the final bit of instruction for when we get a 0 to finish out the sequence of numbers. So we're going to do the Y for yes for when we get a 0. And all we're going to do here is we're going to swap the values, because we have our low value saved in the backup. And then we're going to move the accumulated value down. And that has that completed. Then all we're going to do over here is move the up value down. And that's it. We're done. At least for the minimum output. For the maximum output, we can actually use the same bit of code, and all we have to change on is, remember this one command right here, jump greater than 0. We were using that to test if or activate when the number was lower coming in from over here, and we just have to do the reverse when it's the other way around. So to save the maximum value, so we can actually save all of this. We'll just Control C there and Control V there. We do have to change our directions though, because they are not correct. Instead, we're going to make this a left, we're going to make this a left again. Now we're going to send all these things to the right instead, so we'll change that to right. Change that to right. And right again. And right one more time, and then down is still correct. But remember, we have to change our testing number right here. So instead of greater than 0, we're going to test for less than 0. And then over here, we're going to move the left to the ACC, and then move the ACC to the left twice. Just like that. And then over here, we just have to move the up value down and move the up value down. So let's go ahead and step through it. The first number we get in is a 77. So it moves it down, and this one starts its check. It saves it to the backup, and then over here it does the same thing. Now it moves the next value, which is a 20. It's not a 0, so it's going to continue down. Moves it over to the left. Swap it, so we have the 20 saved in the backup and the 77 moved up to the accumulator. Subtracts that, we get a positive number over here. So it's going to see that, it's going to jump down to B, it's going to take that second input and put it into the accumulator and save that instead. And then it's going to jump back to A and test it all over again. Now you see up here, we're doing the same thing. We just swapped, now we're subtracting the 20. The number is a positive, so it's not less than 0. We're just going to add that number back in because we want that high value and save it. And then it continues on. So this one, it got a higher number. It checks it, doesn't like it, adds it back in, so we get that 20 back and saves it back down here. And it continues on. We still have our 77 up here. We got a 56 over here. And finally, we get our 0 input. So we'll scroll through all this. There we go. Oh, nope, here's the 0. So we get the 0. It sees that, drops back down, swaps because we have our low value here, and you can see we have our high value here, and then just drops that on down. And then over here it does the same thing, and we get our 77. So we can just go ahead and let this play out now. And there you go. You can see it's doing its thing. Not too bad on this one. Took me a little while to figure it out, but it wasn't too bad, and I'm pretty average, pretty much same as everybody else on this one. So I hope this helps, and come on back for the next video.